live, and we are the pursuit of anime. This is Raven and Teddy,
Hello.
and we're here today to talk a bit of a different topic. Society needs reform, but how do we change it? Now it's a bit of a loaded topic. Um, I guess to start off, it is good to note that we are the pursuit of anime, where we talk a mix of philosophy and anime. And with that said, this is an open space, open platform, and a free thinking space where we just voice our natural, just kind of off the dome opinion on certain topics. And we would welcome the same from any viewers or any commenters as well. We always love having our thoughts challenged, and we hope that this conversation can provide that same value to you. Now, with that said, society needs reform, but how do we change it? I think we've all, at some point in our lives, looked at the world and we've thought to ourselves, the world needs to change. Or, I mean, there's a common saying, what does the world come to? What does this world come to? And there's this common saying across society and civilizations that we need to change society. We all need to band together and change society. And sometimes I found myself getting into conversations with people about how we can change society or what changes in particular need to be made. Um, and then that's when things start getting vague, you know? I think that
hmm
when it comes to, oh yeah, society needs reform, the first part of the question, everybody can agree. Society does need reform, right? But then when you start getting into the specifics of what exactly needs to be reformed and how do we go about reforming it, then things just start getting vague. You're like, well, I haven't thought that far. And I think this will be a kind of good moment to get into that. And I wanted to start off with a more anime centric topic. And I
hmm
think this bleeds into a bigger world issue. But you know, Teddy, there's this issue with animators, anime animators, and them not being paid enough, right?
Yeah. I mean, it goes beyond just that, but yeah, that's like the biggest issue.
Yeah, like these people in the manga and anime industry, they're not really paid well, and they work a lot. They do a lot of hours. Some people are producing like godly god tier animation, like Demon Slayer, Jujutsu Kaisen, and they're getting paid pennies on the dollar for it. And every year, anime fans are like, "Yeah, that's such an injustice." But no change really seems to be occurring in the anime industry to kind of accommodate or help out those people who are obviously working hard and in need of better pay. Now, Teddy, what do you think we can do to change that industry, the anime industry, to uh, to help get these people paid, basically?
Well, I feel like um, we live in a world where the bottom line and profit is usually the determining factor in any actions that are taken, right? If you're able to convince any corporation or any entity that it's in their financial benefit to implement certain changes, they will do it, right? The nature of the change doesn't really matter sometimes, whether it's for better or worse. They don't really care. It's, is this change going to bring us more money? If so, yes, let's go ahead and do it. So because of that, it's very difficult to change a system that's been in place for so long and that's worked for the people in power who get to decide what's what, right? And so you've started to see it a little bit where there are certain people who, because they are upset about the conditions, they just take the matter into their own hands. And that's what that saying that goes, change starts with the man in the mirror, right? So it should start at a community level, which means us, the people who are noticing that there needs to be a change, because that's another thing that I was thinking about when you were talking, which is that change only feels necessary to the people who feel they're getting the short end of the stick based on the way the system is currently, right? If you're somebody who's living their best life and you have absolutely nothing to worry about regarding the current state of affairs, you're not going to feel like, oh, we need reform, because you're doing great, you're doing amazing, you're thriving under the current system. So of course you're not thinking, oh, we need to change this. And we see it happen all the time, especially with you know uh, people in power, where they know where the power came from. It came from the way the system is. So it's like, if you ask them, so, do you think society needs reform? They're like, no, right? But bringing it back to the first topic that you brought up, because it's one that's near and dear to my heart. I agree, because the reason I agree we need that change. The reason why I believe that it starts with us is because I'm not gonna lie to you, man. Especially with the recent anime season last year, I felt guilty because I'm thinking I'm getting all of this amazing content for damn near free. I mean, yes, I have a Crunchyroll subscription, but let's be honest, like I don't think that is nearly enough to cover for the expenses or to provide proper remuneration to these people who are bringing us such amazing content, right? I don't know if you heard this.
Yeah.
Apparently, the guy who was directing the Chainsaw Man project for MAPPA for season one, he quit MAPPA to start his own animation studio.
That's crazy. I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I hadn't either, because my sister, she's also a big anime fan, and she sent me that, and I was like, yeah, you know what? That makes sense. If we are to believe the allegations about the working conditions for the MAPPA employees are true, it only makes sense, because I can imagine. Look, just think back. I guess you haven't seen season two, but the people who have, they know that JJK this season, every single episode was a movie. Being able to put out that kind of quality on this on a weekly basis is insane. The kind of work, uh, uh, um, it- just like the kind of work conditions that must have been happening for that to happen in the first place, were probably insane, right? They're probably not the healthiest, and so people are like, listen, we don't care if it takes you years. Take the time that you need to make it, to put out this amazing content again, but in more reasonable conditions, right? And so, like the Chainsaw Man director, he quitting Mappa. It's like, I think this might be the beginning of a trend, because people are realizing we need to do our own thing. We need to separate ourselves from those bigger entities if they don't work for us, like if they don't help us in any way. And I was thinking another solution besides that would be for us, the um, the consumers, to find a way to get in touch with those animators, but maybe get together first as a community, get together and try to decide, can we set up some kind of uh, uh, funding operation, right? Or some kind of funding venture to support them or assist them, because just think about how big anime has become over the recent years, right? I'm pretty sure that if we all got together and we said, okay, we're going to set up this fund where we donate, I don't know, $2 a month, $5 a month, or you can even do the same thing that certain people do, where there's tiers, right? You donate based on what you can afford. Some people might be able to afford $10 a month. Some people maybe more, maybe less, right? You build a system like that. I'm pretty sure, given how passionate we are about this matter and the public outcry I've heard, that people are saying, like I've actually seen it. Some people say, how can I pay for this animation? I feel like I'm stealing them near.
Yeah.
This is not okay. The conditions these people are in, and I'm able to benefit from this for them near free. That's not okay. What can we do, right? And I think we need to find a place where we can gather all those people that have that same mindset. So do it like a stream or something on Twitch, TikTok, whatever have you, where people can get together and decide, oh, you know what, let's do this. And for a project like that to be successful, I feel like the only people that I could see doing that are established anime YouTubers. They probably have the kind of uh, um, following and leverage to pull off something like that successfully. Can you imagine, like, if some of the biggest anime YouTubers or TikTokers got together and decided, okay, we're going to do this big stream and get as much of the anime fandom together as possible, set up a funding, do some, like, it could be huge, right? But
Yeah.
it takes that initiative to get it started. So that I'm my bad. That was kind of a long-winded answer, but yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on this.
Yeah. And that's true. We do get, I think it's true what you say with the anime community and manga community as a whole. We're pretty spoiled, you know.
Very much so.
If you do pay for this stuff, you're not really paying that much. Crunchyroll is like what, $15 a month max. Shonen
Yeah,
Jump is like, I think $5 a month. I think it's even less. It used
dude,
to
it's
be
like
like
two
$2.
bucks.
Yeah, it's like $2. So I mean, and you're reading some of the best manga ever
And plus,
on
I'm gonna
Shonen
be
Jump.
honest, man. I don't like low key. I don't even want to be giving money to Crunchyroll because I hate their platform. I feel like they have one of the least user friendly, most convoluted platforms out there in terms
Yeah,
of
it's
anime
pretty weird.
streaming. I hate
It's
it.
pretty
Exactly.
weird.
It's very. Have you ever tried watching One Piece on there recently? Like that
No.
stuff is just, yeah. Don't even bother. The only reason I go there is because usually I can rely on the quality of the video, but even then it's just like, yo, I don't even want to be here because the way they have the episodes uh, uh, um can laid
Oh,
out.
it's through like seasons and stuff.
Not only the seasons, it's not even in order, bro.
Oh my god.
So if you want to watch the current episodes, it's somewhere in the middle. It's so weird. I'm like, dude, that's disgusting, man. I don't like this. But that's what I'm giving my money to. No, I need that to go to the people who actually deserve it. So
Yeah. And that's kind of like a big thing. Like the money really talks when it's like capitalist society, and when, you know, the corporations are a big part of these issues. There was a quote recently. I was looking at like a Bernie Sanders speech, and he said, "What kind of nation are we when we give tax breaks to billionaires, but we can't take care of the elderly and the children?" So there's a lot of civil unrest. We've seen it throughout the years. We've seen it very recently. Um, and it's just bleeding into so many aspects and so many fields. The reason why I wanted to start off with that like animator example is because it's something, of course, that we're very familiar with. It kind of hits close to home. It's something that we've been discussing for a while now, and
yes.
it just hasn't changed. And it's honestly not the only industry. You know, people joke all
Mhm.
the time. People joke all the time. We always joke about like, oh, sweatshop workers. You know, like somebody's in the sweatshop making my Jordans for me. And in these first world, tier 5 advanced alien civilizations that we live in, that's like a comfortable little joke for us, but it's actually a reality. um, if you go to where all of this labor is being outsourced to. And so the fact that these things can exist in the world, um, a lot of people see it as an injustice. But the thing is, how can you change the world, Teddy? How can you change all these things so that um, everybody can live a good life or a full life, or have equal rights? Everybody can have equal opportunity. Is a world like that really even possible? it can be kind of defeating when you think of it, when you think to yourself, yeah, I want to stand up and be a voice of change, but will my voice be just a drop in the ocean?
No, no, it's true, and I think that's one of the reasons why uh, change doesn't come about as frequently as it should, based on how necessary it feels. Is that sense of powerlessness, right? Where people are feeling, I'm, I already have my plate full trying to survive, let alone try to worry about matters that are bigger than me, right?
Yeah.
So it feels like a daunting undertaking for a lot of people, because you're thinking, I don't even know where to begin. I don't know if enough of us feel strongly about this to bother to do anything about it. If I bring up the issue, am I going to be able to rally people under me? And, you know, as much as I love the internet and how much we've progressed in that realm with social media and all that, sometimes I blame it for people's inability to act sometimes, because you get the feeling that just by being an online activist, you've done enough, right? A lot of people, they feel like if I cry about it enough online, or if I scream about it enough online, and get a lot of attention and likes, a lot of people will come to realize it's an issue, and I'll be able to rally a lot of people to my cause. It's like, that's nice and everything, but once you've done that, how can we use that momentum to bring about actual change? A lot of the time it just stops at that, just getting the buzz around. This is what we need to do. I think one of the biggest, I want to say, scams in that regard in recent times is the the Black Lives Matter movement, where a lot of people felt like attention needed to be brought to the fact that in most situations, Black lives don't get treated the same as you know white folks, or something along those lines. I was never really deeply involved in that movement. That's a whole different kind of worm I don't want to get into now. But basically, just so to say, it
Yeah.
was like that, where a lot of people online were talking about it and said, "Oh yeah, we need to do something about it. Like we need to bring awareness." You'll notice that's a big, almost buzz phrase that people use, like raise awareness to this issue.
Well, how
Raising
powerful do you
raising
think
awareness is
awareness
serious
is?
there. Hmm?
How powerful do you think awareness is?
It's only as powerful as its ability to get people to move. So if you're raising awareness but nobody's doing anything, it's like, okay, we know about it, but nobody wants to, or feels like they're in a place to do anything about it. So it falls on deaf ears.
Yeah.
You know what happened recently with
Well,
uh, Palestine and Israel, right?
yeah.
Which is, it's still ongoing, really, but
Hmm.
we don't hear about it as much. And everywhere you go, you have somebody making some kind of political statement, or stating their opinion about
Yeah.
the matter, and trying to raise awareness
And comment on it.
and comment on it, which is fine. Freedom of speech, I love it. We all do.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this: how is doing any of that helping the situation? Are we setting up funds to send over to that area to help in any way, shape, or form? Like, are we getting resources together to help people actually sit down and be more civilized about this matter? Are we actually reaching out to the lives that are getting affected by this problem? Are we just sitting here and talking about it? And um, and I've talked to folks about this before. Like, I try never to get into heated arguments with most people, because I feel like I can calmly state my point, but other people can't always do that. So it becomes a little bit pointless. But I would say, because sometimes I get chastised about not talking about it enough, and it's like we see it everywhere. You open Instagram, you see it. You go on the news, you see it. You go out in the streets, people are talking about it. But how does that change anything that's happening over there? And more importantly, how does that affect us and our lives here? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where I like that question that you posed of how effective is awareness? Because yes, we're all aware, but in the grand scheme of things, what does that matter? Where the opposite can be true, when people then know that there's a problem, and instead of talking about it or bringing awareness, guess what they do? They handle it.
You know, one thing I've noticed too is, and one thought I'm having now is like, awareness is good at bringing attention to a topic or an issue,
Mm-hmm.
um, but it's not very effective at necessarily bringing reform to an issue or change.
No.
I mean, just look at like last year or 2 years ago. It's all a blur at this point. When Pray for Ukraine was just like a very like rampant topic. It was something that everybody was talking about, and now it's like you'd be hard pressed to find anybody still talking about that. It's like it was such a big conversation in America, and now the eyes just shift to Israel, and it almost and there's been countless other things before, right? So it just kind
Mm-hmm.
of raises the question of, well, what's going to be the next thing to distract us? What's going to, like, is it really our attention being brought to these issues to bring about a reform in them or bring about a positive change in some way, or is our attention just being brought to them to, I don't know, to distract us, to what have you? It's kind of an unfinished thought, but it's something that I was thinking about as you were talking, where sometimes it seems like it leads nowhere, just having your eyes there. But there are some sentiments that I do understand. I know I was watching this Palestinian YouTuber who was documenting what was happening um, live from Palestine, and they said, if you were in my position, um, you would want the world to have their eyes on you, or you would probably want the world to be screaming and fighting for you. You wouldn't want to feel alone, and that's something that definitely resonated with me, and I definitely do agree with that and understand that sentiment. So I do understand the importance of attention, just at a basic human level, but I do question how effective just attention alone is at bringing about reform. I'll bring
I
you
want,
an
I want,
example,
yeah.
just real quick. I'll
No,
bring
go for it.
an example because I live in New York, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to be a little more of a less heavy example. We've been complaining in New York for a while about the Metro cards. They used to
Mm-hmm.
be like 175, 150. They are now $2.75. They're about to go up to like $3 or 2.90. Um, and every time they raise the price, first of all, when they first raised it to 175, people were like, "No, there's no way in hell they're raising it to 175." People aren't gonna just sit down and take that. Then what happens? It raises to 175, and then slowly but surely, it's raised up yet another dollar from there. And every time, people keep saying, "Yeah, no, we're not just gonna let this happen," and yet they do. Nothing is ever done about it. And there's no public outcries, like, and this is not a slight to other world issues. Of course, there's much bigger world issues than like a Metro card, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this is in New Yorkers' immediate proximity. So when something happens in the outside world, other countries, something like that, New Yorkers get very like just super into their protest. They go super hard, super crazy. But
Mm-hmm.
then when it comes to direct issues and that affect their community that they obviously feel very strongly about, they're just very complacent. So it just
Yeah.
doesn't, it just raises it just, like, it's a big question mark to me. why people seem so detached and complacent to issues that are happening so close to home.
I think it's like this, man. Um, it's people will continue to allow a, a status quo until it becomes unreasonably inconvenient to them. I think that's usually the motivation for reform or change. Is is this has this situation become unbearable enough to warrant us taking action? Which, kind of going back to that initial discussion we had with the animators, it already, for a lot of us, it's already been past that point. So that's why a lot of people are actively looking at ways to remedy the situation. And going with the example you just brought up with the fairs in New York, it's like, for some people, they're thinking, yes, it's annoying, but you know, it's like I can still live in these conditions. This is still tolerable, and
Yeah.
because it is, I'm okay with it for now. But the moment it tips over to the other side where it stops being okay, then that's when people are more likely to do something about it. And I
Yeah.
wanted to bring up and it's kind of a side tangent, really, about that guy, the Palestinian YouTuber you mentioned. Uh, I understand, especially in this age of social media, how prevalent it is, wanting the world's eyes on the matter at hand. But what? See, and this is why I always say, like you said, like, we're talking about earlier, awareness is only as good as whether or not it can incite people to take action. So you want awareness, but let's be honest, the people that need to do the work is y'all. It's your issue. Because remember, not too long ago, a few years ago, the mid the like that whole area was always complaining that America always put his nose in other people's affairs to mind their own business, right?
Yeah.
And I kind of agreed with that stance, because if it's our issue, chances are we are the best suited to know the solution because we're in it, right? We don't want an outsider to come in and decide what they think is right for us based on their minimal understanding of the situation. It's like, yes, you want awareness, you want people to know about what's happening here, but it's like, do you have, because I won't say he's necessarily 100% wrong, right? That's fine, as long as you know exactly what you're looking for in terms of a concrete solution to the problem. If you feel like there's a concrete solution to the problem that can come from the outside, then by all means ask for all the eyes of the world to be on you, because you also have a plan. Because this is the thing, when you say, oh, I want the people to see us, it's like, okay, so then tell us, from where we are, what can we do to help you out? Because if you just want awareness, I can feel for you. I can, we can pray for you. We can send well wishes out into the universe. But at the end of the day, that what else can we do that's tangible, that's concrete? You feel me? Like, I don't. Like, I feel like, I get it. I get wanting other people to understand your pain and suffering, but like, all it does, it just make me outraged and angry for their suffering. But I say, like, I've seen videos of uh, little kids blown up by, the bombs that go off in urban areas and things. That it's like, I'm sorry, it pisses me off to see that. I wish that there wouldn't be happening to y'all. But what can I do? I'm seeing this, but like you see what I mean? Where it's like, yeah, it's good to want to get that attention, get the eyeballs on you, but at the end of the day, I mean, if that's really all you need, that's I'm okay with that too. Like if that's all you need, and if that serves you in any way, shape, or form, by all means. But I just feel like there needs to be something a little bit more than that, in my
Yeah.
personal opinion. I feel like it's just
Well, do you
we're
think that,
pointless.
with that said, I think that highlights a point, and that's actually also one of the reasons why I brought up the MetroCard example, is because, of course, and one of the examples I brought up is that people in New York, um, they will be, they will basically be ready to be up in arms for
Mhm.
Palestine and for Ukraine and what have you, uh, but they won't be ready to be up in arms for their Metro cards going up, and it should be obvious why, because a Metro card is not as grave as a person's life, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Now that we're talking about issues that are happening all across, like half halfway or like basically on the other side of the world, right?
Mhm.
It just gets me thinking like how viable um an entire reform is like across the world, because the way you're talking about it, it seems like what we can't really do anything because we're not there. So how important is our opinion there? Should if should societies be reformed basically kind of like one by one? Like people should focus on like regional reform, and it can't be like a worldwide thing. If that makes sense, I don't know if I'm wording it right, but basically what I'm trying to say is a lot of people, they think about well, there's the common phrase change the world, you know, where you have this idea that you are going to be a figure or figurehead. You're going to be the Lelouch di Britannia from Code Geass. That is just going to be that singular force that changes the entire world. But does change really happen like that?
Mhm.
Does change really happen just like in a tsunami wave, just one sweep all across the world? I don't really think so. Every culture, every society will have like different values and different things. And values, as you highlighted earlier, Teddy, change.
Mhm.
Um, like you were talking about the Middle East, there's certain countries that they don't want America in their affairs, and then there's certain countries that would, or there's certain countries that in the past said, "Yeah, I don't know why America keeps sticking their nose in," and then now they may have changed that stance, and they think otherwise now. So humans are
Yeah.
very always ever changing and morphing into something new with the way that they think, and if our minds are reforming, if we ourselves are reforming, but society staying static, that can create problems as well. There's just so many layers to this topic that it almost seems like you can never really reach a conclusion. It seems like you just end up getting lost. The more you talk about it, the more lost you get into it because there's so many problems: world hunger, poverty, wars.
It's
You
not
know,
only like so many problems. There are problems of varying
degrees.
importance and varying degrees. Exactly. Like they're not all equal in terms of how problematic they are and how negatively they impact the communities that are concerned, right? So the way I see it, man, it's actually very simple because I've had these conversations over the past, I want to say, like 4 or 5 years now, where people would see me be driven, be willing to go to certain lengths to achieve certain things, and they'll ask me, how do you stay driven, how do you stay motivated, or how do you find it in you to do those things? And my answer is always, you just have to be pissed off enough. You have to be mad enough about your current condition to want to do something about it. Because, like I said before, if it's okay for you, you're not gonna need to change. You're just gonna feel like, hey, you know what, it's okay. It's not ideal, but it's not problematic yet. But if you're driven by a strong desire to live your best life, you're going to make something happen. Now, expand that to a larger community scale or to a worldwide scale. Once the people have said enough is enough, oh, you will see change. And it may happen in a wave that nobody's ready for. That's usually the way it goes because that's the nature of the beast, right? Because it's like you're putting up with it. And so the system keeps pushing you a little bit more, a little bit further, right? And then eventually, when it gets to that tipping point and the dominoes collapse, it's a tidal wave. That's what's gonna happen because people are gonna be like, we have put up with this for years. We have said, we have convinced ourselves that this was okay, this was fine. Like, the meme of that character sitting in the sea of flames, and they're like, this is fine, this is okay. Uh, it's like that for a lot of us, where we're convincing ourselves that in spite of how much we don't like the situation as it is, we'll put up with it because it's not problematic enough. But once we have all decided enough is enough, it's gonna happen regardless. It's kind of like what's happening in One Piece with the revolutionaries, right? Like everywhere they go, they're able to rally troops behind them because those are people who have endured oppression and suffering for so long at the hands of the celestial dragons. And Dragon and his gang, they pull up, they're like, listen, we understand you feel powerless. And that's something too. If even a few figures, I'm talking in our world, right? Even if a few figures can rise up and convince people that they have more power than they believe they do, that's going to also cause a ripple effect and a tidal wave of reform and revolution. Because when you're able to get people to believe in themselves, it's like an unstoppable force that's born within them because they feel they can do anything, right? And that's something we've talked about for like so many times now throughout all these podcasts, where it seems that people have lost that belief in themselves, that
Yeah.
they have the power to bring about change, right? And part of it is just that careful mind control that our government and society as a whole does to your mind, where they convince you that in the most subtle ways too, like it's never obvious, but they convince you that you're powerless and you can't really, and that's why like the victim mindset has risen in so many people because they've been convinced through very subtle means that they're powerless, they can't bring about change. But if you have a few people that can do what Dragon is doing in the world of One Piece for those people and lit that fire in them, or like a Bello Betty, her ability, what she does, like she makes
Oh yeah.
people galvanize, yeah. And if you look that good too, yeah, you're gonna get me going in more ways than one. You feel me?
Oh god.
But it just in general, right? You have somebody like Dragon that's able to rally the troops and like stoke that flame inside of them and convince them, listen, you are capable of a lot more than you give yourself credit for.
Yeah.
You don't have to endure this if it doesn't serve you. If you get like figures like that in our current world, listen, because people don't know what it's like to believe in themselves anymore. If you can like, remind them of that, oh gosh, it's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be amazing. But you have to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, it'll be a process. It's not gonna be overnight, but it can happen. It's just
Yeah.
people have to be fed up enough to want to do it.
Yeah. I think that reform is something that kind of has to be it has to happen in more of a revolutionary sense, probably, like where something happens, or just an amalgamation of things over time, and the final straw breaks.
I
And
actually heard something recently. I'm sorry to cut you off like
yeah.
this. Just real quick. You know about the LGBT community?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've heard somebody say the T should be separated from the rest, and I was like, for some reason, because it's just become an accepted phrase, I never really thought about it. But I was like, oh, wait a minute. Oh yeah, that's true. That makes sense because they're really not the same. Because LGB, they're people who they know who they are. Like they're like whatever their gender is, that's what they are. They don't have what they call it, dysmorphia. Yeah, they don't have that. It's just that they have particular, sexual preferences. Honestly, I don't even think it should be looked at as something crazy, because you don't. I don't think you choose what you like. Is you're born that way, right? At least that's what I think. People don't going to disagree, um,
Yeah.
but they know who they are. The T, that's different. That's a whole
why,
different situation.
why did you say it like that?
I know it just came out. I swear to you, I didn't play it like that. It
Why
just came
did
out. It wasn't on purpose. I
oh my
promise you. I just after I said it, I'm like, oh shit, why did I say it like
yeah.
that?
you s-
And
you
you
said
have to. Why you just let it ride? Why you have to call me out on this, man? You just let it
oh my
ride, bro.
god.
Ah man, see
Unbelievable.
now they're gonna grill my ass because of you. You had to point it out. I just it made like I had the mental note. I was like, oh man, why I say it like that? But then I was just gonna write it out. You had to stop me, man. Yeah, yeah. If I'm in trouble, man, I'm blaming you. But
Bruh.
but yeah, that's a whole different situation, right?
Yeah,
So I was
that's
like,
yeah.
stop it, man. I was like, that's the beginning of a reform when you start to introduce a different way of thinking to people, right? They
Yeah.
change the frame of mind where it's like we've accepted this for so long, but really, if we look at it carefully, that may not be the best course of action. That may not be the best route to take, right? So that, like, when I thought about it, I was like, yo, that's kind of leans into this topic too, where you know, one way to do it too is change people's perceptions of certain aspects of our day-to-day lives, where things that we've just taken for not necessarily granted but we accepted as normal or the status quo is certain like things that we should challenge, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, well there's tons of reform that people want to see happen in the world, and the issue of you know trans rights, non-binary rights, and just overall acceptance of just what it means to be trans, what it means to not exist in the binary of traditional binary of like male and female. There's a lot of reform that even I would say needs to happen in that area. There's a lot of misconception that people have about trans people, and even still about like LGB, as you were saying, the lesbian, bi sexual and gay people. There's a lot of misconception that people have because for a lot of people, what you aren't or what you don't exist as is foreign to you, and you don't really understand it. So a lot of people, they kind of create these straw men or these straw people that they look at the LGBT community as, um, and they kind of just arguing with themselves. And
Mhm.
but that's a whole nother issue. I feel like that goes into more of like an online kind of, yeah, I feel like that argument is more online, and it's I don't know. I just think that it's really dumb overall, and that you know people there would be less problems in the world if people really just like accepted each other a bit more and learned to understand each other, because you would, if you just took time to listen to other people and less time talking, just talking on and on and on about yourself and what you think, which I mean, I know is kind of dumb because that's literally what we're doing on this podcast. But if you took some time to listen to others, you would understand that there's a beautiful world out there full of beautiful people that are worlds apart from you, can be super different culturally, in their preferences, things that they like, the way that they view themselves, the way that they think about life, and yet
Mhm.
at the core, they are still so very similar to you. At the core, they are human, just like you and I, and I think that's one of the most beautiful things about life, and that's why I do really hope that the world, societies, and civilizations as a whole do eventually steer towards positive reformation. Wherever that needs to happen. I'm not gonna act like I know everything about every civilization and every culture, but I do kind of want to end on that note of like, I do think that the spirit of reformation, the spirit of revolution, is in humanity, and whether that's from fighting for trans rights or fighting for the freedom of a country or a people, or even if it's just as simple as something as a Metro card, you know, or getting the label of Aunt Jemima changed. Um, even if it's something as simple as that, opinions do matter. Um, it's definitely important to stay informed about topics. Definitely important to kind of start thinking about this more and more, how we can be more active in the changes that are happening in the world, but definitely don't lose sight of the fact that change first must begin within ourselves. I definitely do believe that you can't help others if you're not helping yourself first. Um, and that's kind of my last thought on the topic. Teddy, do you kind of have any? I think we'll definitely revisit this when we have a little more time. But do you kind of have any last closing thoughts?
Um, Shoot, I feel like I probably have a lot more thoughts, but it's gonna be one of the situations like you said. It's definitely gonna be a topic that comes back around because I also have my thoughts about the nature of that topic, which we can discuss at a later time. So no, it's a lot. It's a lot. I mean, with us, that's always the way it goes. We explore and then we explore some more. It's like, oh shoot, I didn't realize there's even more layers that I didn't know about. So we're gonna have to come back to this. So
Yeah,
yeah, man, just I'm gonna keep the people on their toes, looking out for
yeah,
next time we talk about this.
yeah. You might see a part two. Sooner rather than later. But yeah, this has been the pursuit of anime. Talking about society needs reform, but how do we change it? Let us know what you think in the comments below. I know I opened it up, but I do want to close on that note as well. That this is just us sorting out our thoughts on the topic. We'd love to hear your opinion, even if you radically disagree with us. Um, we always
In
welcome
fact,
differing
we
opinions.
welcome radical disagreement because that's what opens more, like deeper exploration of these topics, and because there may be certain aspects of the issue that we're not necessarily aware of that you may be privy to based on your own, like unique circumstances. So yeah, we always welcome that.
Exactly. And with that, we are out. Peace.
Peace.